You know, you could go to a Christian bookstore, or you could go to the library and look up in the Christian area, and you will find lots of books on lots of things. How to have a better marriage, how to have a better business, how to have a better parenting experience, how to be a better child to your parents, how to do all kinds of things. You can learn all sorts of things. But what is central to the Christian faith is often missing. Because we take it for granted. Well, yeah, I know. Jesus died for my sins and was raised again. Yeah, I know. But it's a huge thing. It's a very huge thing. I'm going to introduce you today to someone. He's not here because he died in 1853. But his name is Simon Greenleaf. He's a fascinating guy. You can go out on the internet if you're so inclined and Google Simon Greenleaf, and you'll find information on him. And you'll find one of his best books, which I'm going to quote from a little bit this morning, which is called, let me get the exact... The Testimony of the Evangelist, examined by the rules of evidence administered in courts of justice. They used to have really long titles to books back in the 1800s. Simon Greenleaf was one of the major contributors in the early days to Harvard Law School. He had 3 honorary doctorates in law, practiced law back before you had to, go through all kinds of law exams and so forth. First, he practiced law all of his life. He was also a believer. And what he did was he wrote a book, and he looked at the Bible, specifically the Gospels, and he took this approach to it. He said, okay, well, if this was presented before me, these guys' testimony, in a court of law, how would I approach it? It's a fascinating book if you can get through the reading in, someone who wrote it 150 years ago. The language is kind of funny sometimes, but it's a fascinating book. But back to the issue of how important is it? This is what he says in his introduction, which I find interesting. He says, the things related by the evangelist are certainly of the most momentous character, affecting the principles of our conduct here and our happiness forever. The religion of Jesus Christ aims at nothing less than the utter overthrow of all other systems of religion in the world, denouncing them as inadequate to the wants of man, false in their foundations, and dangerous in their tendency. It not only solicits the grave attention of all to whom its doctrines are presented, but it demands their cordial belief as a matter of vital concernment. These are no ordinary claims, and it seems hardly possible for a rational being to regard them with even a subdued interest, much less to treat them with mere indifference and contempt. If not true, if the claims of the evangelist that Jesus Christ rose from the dead are not true, they are little else than the pretensions of a bold impostor, which, not satisfied with having already enslaved millions of the human race, seeks to continue its encroachments upon human liberty, until all nations shall be subjugated under its rule. But if they are well-founded and just, they can be no less than the high requirements of heaven, addressed by the voice of God to the reason and understanding of man, concerning things deeply affecting his relations to his sovereign and essential to the formation of his character and of his course to his destiny, both for this life and the life to come. They wrote real differently in the 1800s, didn't they? But did you catch the essence of what he is saying there? We take the Gospels for granted so many times, and the words that are spoken, and the testimony that Jesus Christ is risen today. Hallelujah! We take it for granted, and we take it lightly. We esteem it lightly. We don't put great weight to it. We put more weight to, but I'm really praying for that job. I'm really praying about this. I'm really hoping I get a new car. We're worried about what's going on in us. And at the central part of our faith of our belief is the fact that Jesus Christ rose from the dead. It's at the heart. Without it, we are stupid to be here. Without it, this is a waste of time. We're just pretending. We're just fooling ourselves. Okay, well then, let's think about this for a minute. How do we know about the evangelists? How do we know about Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John? I can still remember in 4th grade in parochial school, raising my hand during religion class and asking Sister Mary somebody, I forget her name, and saying, how do we know that Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John didn't just get together and decide to invent a religion? Make a little money. It'd be, looks like it's doing all right these days. And actually, she didn't have an answer for me. And she sent me to the priest who also didn't have an answer for me. They reprimanded me for asking the question. I think it's a legitimate question. If you're going to pin your destiny, not just your destiny in this life, but your eternal destiny on the testimony of 4 guys who lived 2,000 years ago, well, that's, how reliable are they? First of all, what about the fact that, there's all these different Bibles and different translations and manuscripts, and gosh, they're all different. How do you know that they just didn't make it up? Well, we're not going to go in depth in this, but I would be glad to talk to you in more depth about this. But basically, you can remember this. Nah. Everybody say that. Nah. Come on. Nah. That's better. Number, age, and agreement. Number, age, and agreement. Number, age, and agreement. Nah. The number of manuscripts is over 9,000 manuscripts of the New Testament. Over 9,000. That is orders of magnitude. Now, that's a term from my physical chemistry days. Orders of magnitude means by factors of 10, the comparison of 10 to 100. By orders of magnitude, comparing thousands to either tens or hundreds, it outweighs any other ancient manuscript that mankind studies and looks at and believes in for history, religion, or anything else. Thousands of manuscripts. Tens or hundreds of manuscripts of Roman history, Greek history. All of those things that you study in college and you go, well, yeah, this is the truth. We don't know about this Bible thing, but this is it. Look it up. Look it up. The number of manuscripts. The age of the manuscripts. Of all ancient writings of history or ancient writings from this time period of religion, the age of the manuscripts of the New Testament, though the actual manuscripts themselves that we have are dated full manuscripts several hundred years after their writing, that compares to other manuscripts for other religion or history that are over 1,000 years later. That's the closest they have. Number, age, agreement. Well, Pastor, I've read by scholars that there are 4,000 differences in the text between all these manuscripts. So how do you know what you can depend on? Well, I'll tell you how. And you can figure it out for yourself if you do a little scratching. And that is that the vast majority of those differences are the differences between the tense of a word, or whether there's a or a the there, whether a proper name is spelled this way or that way, whether it's plural or singular. When you get down to differences of substance, you're down in the hundreds, low hundreds.